if one person, one of its participants, carries out actions that are intended to disrupt. Now, here's the actions that everybody gets life in prison if one person carries it out. A, the free and orderly assembly of the inhabitants of the state of Oregon. B, commerce or the transportation system of the state of Oregon. Or C, the educational or governmental institutions of the state of Oregon or its inhabitants. You block a road, you block a street, you throw an egg, you have a car wreck and block the road. It says it. You get life in prison. It says a person convicted of terrorism shall be punished by imprisonment for life. This is what government would like to do. Now, in Wisconsin, they passed these laws, and you go to prison if you sue a public official, which is your right to do, but it doesn't matter now. They've got SWAT teams with black uniforms and ski masks if you don't submit.
You first met them right after the 9/11 attack. They were the ones guarding the secret mountain bunker where top government officials would go in a national emergency. Take a look at the patch on their uniforms, because this is what you'll mostly be staring at after a major terrorist attack. It's the mark of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, police. FEMA's most important role would come after a major terrorist attack. The minute President Bush declares a national emergency, FEMA becomes the boss. Federal documents lay out plans for what will happen to you if you survive. It's called consequence management. Executive orders going back to John F. Kennedy and the Cold War kick in. Order number 11002 directs the Postmaster General to register all residents, including the mayor, so movement and relocation can be controlled. Executive Order 10995 says FEMA takes over all radio and TV. Order 10997, FEMA takes over gas stations and electric companies. Order 10998, FEMA takes over grocery stores and farms. Order 10999, FEMA controls movements of cars and boats. Order number 11,000, FEMA can suspend wage laws and put labor forces to work without pay. Order number 11,001, FEMA takes over hospitals and schools. FEMA answers only to the National Security Council and the President. Congress cannot intervene for 6 months.
So you got to wonder, is that why the federal government hasn't given cities like St. Louis so much as a dime for their own consequence management?
The Federal Emergency Management Agency is a blessing for victims of natural disasters, but in a nationwide crisis, FEMA has the legal authority to replace the U.S. government. Why would such a system be created unless there's a conspiracy to use it? Established in 1979 as a simple departmental merger, FEMA has gained enormous power. It can provide the muscle and machinery for an already existing shadow government to take charge anywhere in America. This group of non-elected bureaucrats can declare martial law, arrest dissidents, and suspend some of our constitutional rights, all in the name of national security.
And if that doesn't scare you, let's meet our panel. First, we have a talk radio host from Austin, Texas, who also runs the scary-sounding website Infowars.com. Please welcome Alex Jones. Alex, you look a little paranoid. What's the conspiracy here?
I'm just thinking about the best way to warn the American people of this incredibly secretive, powerful organization that has tentacles down into every facet of our society. It is the machinery, it is the cogs that the national security dictatorship are now already controlling the country with and are expanding their control right now.
Anyone ever tell you sound like Patton?
We need somebody to take charge, but it's certainly not FEMA. We need to definitely warn the people about this organization.
How did they get so powerful, Alex?
Well, look, there's all this propaganda about how much they love us and how they take care of us. I mean, that was basically Hitler's line in Germany that convinced the German people. And every administration adds more powers to it. Republican, Democrat.
So they're taking Hitler's lines.
Do what, sir?
They're stealing Hitler's strategy.
Yes, basically, Hitler burned the Reichstag. He created a crisis to offer his solution. And it's the same thing over and over again. In fact, the federal government doesn't really have an incentive to stop disasters, to stop attacks. They get more control every time there is a disaster.
How can you stop a disaster?
I'm also talking about terrorist attacks.
Well, yeah. Well,
I mean, they talk about how they're going to keep us safe, but they leave the borders wide open.
Well, that's not FEMA's job to stop terrorism.
Well, actually, if you look at it, they have a giant secret budget. It's called a black op budget. Tens of billions of dollars that we know about.
And where do they get that money?
From the federal government.
From the federal government. Who gets it from where?
From the American people.
You're giving them money. This Hitler organization.
That's right. The American people, of course. That's not the first time governments have taxed the population to enslave them. Look at Rome. I mean, Rome was great at that. But it's the same thing over and over again.
If they were going to take over the United States, like you're saying, wouldn't they have had a great opportunity to do so?
They've already taken over. I told you in '96 they control every radio and television station in the country.
They could control every radio.
That's right. They're putting the entire system in place.
If they didn't take over after that disaster in New York, I'm talking about the Yankees losing the series.
What kind of scenario? What kind of scenario do you think?
Hold on, let me take that.
If they didn't take over then, I mean, that was a perfect opportunity.
None of this stuff happens overnight. It's incrementalism. More and more power, more and more control. That's what we see developing here with FEMA. And look, it's been in the Washington Post, the New York Times, you name it, that Bush hasn't included the Speaker of the House, Leader of the Senate in direct line of ascension with codes, with access cards to the bunkers. They're not even including them in continuity of government. The first time in history our government activates that. FEMA is now in control.
How concerned are you about this? Do you lose sleep at night thinking about this?
Absolutely. I work as hard as I can on the radio.
Are you going to take a nap after this?
Hey, look, Infowars.com is dedicated to fighting this globalization, this new world order.
Does this worry you?
No, FEMA doesn't worry me. I don't think that FEMA would ever have the power to impose any kind of martial law. That's only can be authorized by an act of Congress. And so I don't really see how the transfer of power would happen unless you're talking about an actual military takeover through the NSC.
Go read the executive orders on FEMA.
How would it happen?
Look, it's already happening. The bunkers are in command right now.
Getting out of here. It's where Cheney is.
There's an important point that you need to realize. I've made 8 documentary films. First one in 1997, America Destroyed by Design. I made Police State 2000, Police State 2, The Takeover, and now Police State 3, Total Enslavement. And we went and showed you the Marines training to confiscate your guns, training with foreign troops, admittedly to put Americans in FEMA camps. And now they're announcing on television and radio stations and in major newspapers plans to round you up, plans to shut down cities, plans to put you in camps. They built these camps. And you say, why would they do that? Why, we're their slaves. They make money off us. Folks, they print the money. They create the financial